Keith Thurman finally looks to return to the ring after having to pull out of the Tim Tszyu fight due to an injury. He's now trying to come back once again, and this time he's fighting an Aussie again. So let's find out about this fight. Let's dive in. So Keith Thurman's looking at returning to the ring once again, as long as he's injury free. And this time he's going to do it in Sydney, Australia. Finally, a fight close to me. Maybe I'll go to it, I don't know. Or I'll just live stream it because I'm lazy. So Keith's set to take on Brock Jarvis in Sydney. Keith's record currently stands at 30 wins and that one loss against Manny Pacquiao.
Oh, down goes Thurman!
With 22 KOs coming from his wins. But something to highlight is that Keith Thurman hasn't fought for around 3 years now, when he beat Marius Barrios, going the 12 rounds to get the unanimous decision. So let's look at Brock Jarvis. Brock Jarvis has had 22 wins with 20 KOs and just that one loss. That one loss, that knockout in the first round from Liam Paro. That was an epic knockout from Liam Paro. But in saying that, Liam Paro did go on to get a world title. So you have to look at that with his one loss that Brock Jarvis has had. Looking at this fight, there's a big difference in not only experience, but also in class. Keith Thurman is a world-class fighter. Even though he hasn't fought for 3 years, he is still an excellent fighter. He hasn't fought for a while, but when he was fighting, he was at that elite level, that top level, world championship level as a fighter. So for Brock Jarvis to beat this guy, he's going to have to fight extremely well. And I don't think Keith Thurman's age is going to make a massive difference. He's 36. Yep, it's a bit on the older side, but it's not that age level where you can't still be at that elite level. Look at Manny Pacquiao, for example. He was the one who beat Keith Thurman, and I think Manny Pacquiao was like 41 at the time, 41, 42. So that just shows that you can have the ability to still fight at that elite level at even 40 and beyond. And looking at Keith Thurman, he's 36. So he still has a bit of time left to try and get back to that elite world championship level. And he can do it. So I think the big thing is going to depend on him being injury free and not having any other injuries come up and having to pull out of this fight, because that would be disastrous, especially at his age. And also ring rust. How much ring rust does he actually have, considering he hasn't fought for 3 years? So they're going to be the two big challenges, I think, for Keith Thurman. Brock Jarvis, let's look at Brock Jarvis. Brock Jarvis has to fight out of his skin to win this fight. He has to, because taking on a fighter like Keith Thurman, regardless of whether he's been out of the ring for 3 years, that is still a tough challenge. You're taking on someone that was the elite when they were fighting. So even though he hasn't fought for 3 years, it is still going to be a massive challenge for Brock Jarvis to beat him, considering that Brock Jarvis has not fought at that elite level, at that world elite level. So this is a massive challenge for him. And if he does win this, to me, this is a big upset, because Keith Thurman, still, you would have to class as an elite fighter, maybe not world championship ranking style fighter yet, but you still have to put him in the category of being up there with the best, regardless of him not fighting in 3 years. So this is going to be a massive challenge for Brock Jarvis. I think the one advantage that he does have is the fact that he's fighting in Australia and he's going to have the crowd behind him in Sydney. So that will at least help push him to achieve this upset, having that crowd behind you. But the thing I see not being in his favour is the fact that he hasn't been that active, and he's also moved up weight classes. And upon moving up those weight classes, he's reduced the amount of rounds that he's actually fought. So in terms of rounds completed, rounds fought in the last 4 years or so, it's not that high. So although Keith Thurman has had inactivity and hasn't done anything for 3 years, for the last 4 years, I think Brock has fought 4 times. In the last 3 years, I think he's fought 3 times. So in terms of inactivity, they're not that much different to each other. So this makes it even more challenging for Brock Jarvis. So my final analysis in comparing Keith Thurman to Brock Jarvis and who I think would win this, I would have to say Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman is just at that higher level compared to Brock Jarvis. I think the two advantages that Brock Jarvis does have is the fact that Keith Thurman is older, Brock Jarvis has youth on his side, and the fact that Keith Thurman hasn't fought in 3 years. But as I mentioned, Brock Jarvis has only had around 3 fights in the last 3 years, so there's not that much difference in terms of activity for Brock Jarvis over Keith Thurman. So in my mind, I would be leaning towards Keith Thurman winning this one. I'll be going for Brock Jarvis, don't get me wrong, he is the Aussie, and I'm always going to back the Aussie, but I do think that Keith Thurman will win this one. But I'll be cheering on Jarvis. Anyway, the 12th of March is the day at the Hordern Pavilion, and this is in Sydney, so this is great. I might go to this one, or I might just live stream it. I don't know yet. It's a bit far away, but I'll let you know. So as always, give me your thoughts below. Who do you think is going to win this? Do you think Brock Jarvis has the chance of winning this? Do you think Keith Thurman easily wins this? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, peace out.
Myths in boxing, highlight real scene, front row seats to the blow by blow scene.